Federal government has announced that the recent declines recorded in the prices of key food commodities across the country are the result of targeted market interventions, increased production, and sustainable investment in the agricultural ecosystem. The Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari, revealed this during the 47th regular meeting of the National Council on Agriculture and Food Security held in Kaduna. He stated that the ongoing reforms under President Bola Tinubu's administration were driven by a commitment to achieve food sovereignty, ensuring that Nigeria will produce what it consumes, while guaranteeing accessibility, availability, and affordability for households. The minister added that the first step towards food sovereignty is ensuring consistent high-yield production through timely access to quality and affordable inputs. Guided by this, the ministry, in collaboration with the African Development Bank and state government, has strengthened the National Agricultural Growth Scheme Agro-Pocket (NAGS) app as Nigeria's flagship program for input delivery and productivity expansion. Well, my guest is Dr. Emeka Okingwa. He's an international business and project development consultant, and he's also the National Coordinator of Climate Smart Food System Support Initiative. Thank you so much for joining us at this point.
Thank you so much for the invite. I'm glad to be here.
All right, so can you briefly describe the current state of agriculture in Nigeria?
Well, I can just recall what the minister has said. You can look at it from the three broad approaches. First and foremost, he talked about strategic interventions, which is where you will now maybe place your import substitution. He talked about the support, to existing food systems, and then he talked about the other ancillary challenges, making certain that the farmlands and the productive facilities are safe enough, for people to begin to engage. So I think collectively is work in progress. Okay, we have done well. Yes, the argument, I'm sure this might come up in the course of this conversation, but okay, where food import bill has gone up. But it's important that if you're going to be asking that question, let me preempt it. Yes, it's gone up by about 200 billion, but it's gone up because what it's bringing in is very critical to making certain that your most needed staples when it comes to grains and cereals are available. So that intervention will be where government needs to step in, okay, to make certain that price is a little bit stable and affordable. And then if you look at the other aspect of vegetables, clearly the local production of vegetables and fruits have tripled or quadrupled because we are no longer just focused on only doing the seasonal production. We are slowly now moving into, the cycle production where, as a result of a mixture of traditional agro systems and then improve their farming methods, we're able to, grow more food all the year round. So I think it's work in progress.
All right, so let's talk about the significance of agriculture to Nigeria's economy today compared to other sectors like oil and other services.
Well, food is life. No matter how rich you are, if you don't eat, you will die. No matter how strong you are, if you don't eat, you will lose strength. Okay, so food is a basic, it's some basic human need. You can't survive without food for more than maybe 14 to 28 days. After that, you'll die. So food is at the base of human survival. That's one. When it comes to agriculture, agriculture now has always been, will remain the biggest employer of labor. And it's also at the heart and root of our social inclusion. Okay, it's a business. You do not need a lot of skills, a lot of proficiency to be able to participate in. And then the value chain, the opportunities are just endless. So when we talk about agriculture, we might be able to now look at it from that scientific perspective and then look at it from the operational perspective where, our food systems or food production will come to play. So it is at the base. It's at the base of development. It's at the base of, nutrition. It's at the base of wellness. It's at the base of health. And of course, is at the base of your being able to keep alive. So it's critical and central.
So looking at what you have just said, are we investing enough in agriculture?
Well, enough is relative. You might never be able to invest enough in agriculture.
And just for us to be able to be food sufficient, at least for now.
No, you can't be investing enough. Remember that our population is burgeoning. We're about 200 and something million people. So if you're going to be getting enough, it simply means you're going to be, investing to meet everybody's nutritional needs. That's huge. You'll be needing trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, to build the back-end infrastructure, build the support systems, be able to now develop your farmlands into plantations and belts, now be able to now build, your storage facilities, be able to build, your value-adding facilities, be able to now, start talking about your packaging and distribution. So it's going to be the country. I mean, if you put all together the budget of Nigeria without removing anything and giving it to agriculture, it mightn't still be enough to solve it in one fell swoop. But it's work in progress. What is important is that government has a determination, and that's why they put the word intervening. Government is not saying to you, oh, we have not become very food. No country is even food sufficient, in every food needs. There might be, sufficient in maybe cereals and grains, but they might also be looking at bringing in the other vegetables, fruits, herbs and all that. So it's a collective thing. But are we doing enough? It's a catch-22 question. If I say yes, I might not be fair to the people who are going to bed hungry now, because enough will mean that everybody has enough to eat. I don't think that's the situation. But if I also say we're doing nothing, you also be very unfair, to the efforts that government has made. So I think the middle road is, like I said before, it's work in progress. But I also think that we need to start building new synergies. And this is where we should also now be looking at the Ministry of Science and Technology. They are very, very central to making certain that we now reach this self-sufficiency, that you're talking about. They are very, very key to it. Very, very central to it. So very important. So
earlier you had mentioned that government is doing quite its best, in summary, to grow the sector. Yes. I will act like a layman at this point. What actually has government put in place to grow the sector? What are the key parameters?
Well, the first thing you need to do is to get your policies right. I mean, you have what they call the National Agricultural Transformation, Implementation Plan. I happen to be part of that program, and I think government is keeping faith to make certain that they are following its provisions, to the letter. Second, government has introduced a lot of innovative programs. You just mentioned one of them. The support systems here and there, the homestead agriculture program, the accelerated Gari production program that I think the Ministry of Agriculture is pursuing. There's another one they call the agroforestry and gardening program, where they are now, establishing points of food production all over the country. Remember the 500,000 hectares of land that the government has said they are going to clear. I think some efforts have been made there. I'm not in government, so I wouldn't know to what extent. So I'm just only mounting, what government has said they will do. Now, these are all the things. If you have 500,000 hectares of land under cultivation, it's a big deal. Okay, if you have a program to have it under cultivation, then it's something, noteworthy. But if he has commenced, I sincerely wouldn't know.
All right. So, in your discussion, you had mentioned that the Ministry of Technology is important, is key to growing the agricultural sector such that we can be food sufficient. How can modern technology such as precision farming, irrigation systems, and of course we have other digital platforms transform agricultural productivity in Nigeria?
Yeah, that's why I said that the Ministry of Science and Technology is very important. And it might also be important for me to mention that all the agencies that actually support agricultural growth, like the National Biotechnology Development Agency, is under the Ministry of Science and Tech. The Raw Materials Research Development Council is under the Ministry of Science and Tech. FIRO is under the Ministry of Science and Tech. And then ANCAM, I think the one that does agricultural equipment, is also under the Ministry of Science and Tech. So this is why I say to you that they are very, very critical. There has to be not just a synergy, okay, but a union. Okay, just not to build that synergy or build that partnership, you need to build a union. So that, like you talked about precision farming, drip irrigation, maybe vertical farming, maybe agroponics, maybe aquaponics. Now, these are technology-based, programs. Okay, even the support power systems, these are also technology-based systems. So if you have the Federal Ministry of Technology now supporting with reverse engineering, it will make it a lot easier. And this is what other countries are doing. So the charge will be for tractorization, for mechanization, for drip technology, for drones technology. This is where the Ministry of Science and Technology comes in. And I hope that the new minister will know that he needs to just put his hands on the plow and begin to push forward. I would have suggested, I'd have liked to see a situation where the first meeting is going to be holding will be with the people, who are in the food sector. The moment that is done, then of course you bring in the water resources. The moment you have this, and then of course the Minister of Livestock, if you may permit me to add that. The moment you have this, 3 people in the same room speaking one language, running one single program, okay, aligning their budgeting, financing programs, and then getting, their publics to all work together would sooner than later, even the intervention in bringing in food and then bringing in storages and bringing in this might just start whittling down over time.
All right, so are you concerned about the bottlenecks that we've heard of in government that hampers growth?
I'm worried, not concerned. I'm very worried. It pains me. And this is why at the level of the food support systems, what we're now trying to do is to now begin to point out, these gaps. Okay, they are not intentional, but they're administrative. Okay, one place you shouldn't have a repetipism, administrative logjams as it were, would be your food systems. Okay, that is why, under climate smart, remember the key word when you use was climate smart. What are we talking about? We should be able to focus on desert agriculture and make certain that we'll get fresh vegetables coming from the Sahel. Okay, we should be able to now focus on making certain that every location in Nigeria, is bringing something to the food, system. And that way you now have your silos being loaded, with your excesses. And then that way you can begin to now actually look everybody in the face and say, you can't go to bed hungry, because out of our 82 million hectares of land, at least we'll have 60 or 70% of that under cultivation, supported by technologies. That's the way to go. But it's a big worry, really, I can tell you that.
And I understand. So let's come down to the nitty-gritty, the people themselves. What role can youth and women play in driving agricultural innovation and agripreneurship?
Grow something, including you interviewing me now. Grow parsley, grow scent leaf, grow something, grow it in your corridor, grow it on your balcony, grow it behind your house. Okay, grow something. And if you go to a place like the UK now, you have what they call rooftop agriculture. So we need to now begin to rethink what we call the farmer. Everybody must be a farmer. Okay, everybody has to now contribute to that one drop of 1 kg coming from you. We make 220 million kg if every Nigerian were to contribute. Okay, let's look at the 60% that are in the youthful age. Okay, that will be giving us at least 160 million metric tons of parsley, of scent leaf, of bitter leaf, okay, of vegetables, of water leaf, of pepper. Okay, that's the way to go. So it's not, we mustn't now begin to look at it as, oh, these people are classified as farmers. Because again, I think our constitution was very clear that no matter who you are, no matter what you do, you're allowed to farm. No matter what business you do, it's not exclusive to anybody. Everybody can be able to do it. So if all of us do it, if all of us are able to grow something, one little thing, the next time I come into your studio, it'd be nice to see ugu growing around, your hedges. It'd be nice to see, pepper growing around the hedges, and then you start growing inside the studio. Around your buildings. That's what I mean, not inside your studios. You can even put it in your flower pots. It's food that people are doing it.
Okay, so you are saying that. I understand what you're saying quite all right, because I've tried it in my own compound. But we see that in Lagos, especially, real estate has taken over, whereby you don't even get a place to farm. You just see houses everywhere. How do we handle that kind of situation? How do we farm for our immediate consumption?
Vertical farming. Vertical farming. You do vertical farming. At one time, when COVID had hit some people, and this wasn't even in the Western world, some hotels closed down and they turned into farms.
Oh, okay.
Okay, please fact check what I'm telling you. Hotels were converted to farms. You saw, 13, 14-story buildings, and they were producing tomato, pepper. Vertical farming, that will suit for Lagos very well. And then you're able to now do both, freshwater and brackish water farms by just putting in a desalination plant by the seashore. It cleans up your water, gives you fresh water to be able to do your fresh water, fish production. And you along that 800 kilometers of our coastline, you can have more than 8,000 fish ponds. And then you'll be dashing people fish. That's how it goes. That's what China is doing now. You can do cage farming, cage fishing. So there's no excuse. That's where you talked. You mentioned technology, and this is where technology comes in. You can do aquaponics in Lagos. You can do agroponics in Lagos. Within those beautiful estates, that has taken over the farmlands, you can still grow something there and then convert one of those beautiful buildings or blocks into a farm. And everybody in the estate, begins to.
So imagine planting yam in an estate. How do you think the estate resident will take it?
Okay, I'm planting yam in my house. I wish you had asked this question. I've done a video. I'm planting yam in bags in my house. I live in a duplex.
But it grows. As it grows, okay. It moves. The ropes move everywhere.
No, they don't move everywhere. You'll be very surprised that they actually give you, that carbon sequestration that you need. It makes the air better.
Okay.
If you can have pine trees in your estate and you look at them as being, and then you have rose flowers, what's the difference between, the leaves of a rose flower and the leaves of a scent leaf? They are all plants, aren't they? Maybe both of us can take a bet on this. Next time you're in Abuja, I'll give you one of those bags to take you to your estate. So that's what it is. I'm telling you what I do. In my house, in my office. If you come into my office in Abuja, I also have, yams growing in bags. I actually have cassava growing in bags. I just harvested soya beans, some of them I grew in my office. So I have empirical evidence to say to you that it's fun. It's a lot of fun for you to come into your office and you pluck one or two tomatoes. You can even eat, and you're sure these are organic. You're not eating anything that is a GMO, as some people I want to be a little bit afraid of doing now. So point I'm trying to make, my brother, is that our food is in our hands. If you do this, for those of us who had the privilege of, going to our country homes, when you are going back, a lot of the plantains and bananas that were loaded into your father's boots, came from somewhere in your compound. Nobody needed to go to the bush to go and get it. People had plantain, growing inside their compounds in the village. Had pear trees, had coconut trees, had all sorts of fruits and vegetables growing there. And then if you were privileged to go home, you had a lot of them to take back to the city.
All right, so let's talk about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. By the way, you have mentioned about yam. I heard Abuja yam are quite nutritious, so I think you should send some to Lagos, though.
No, I'll send the seedlings to you.
No problem.
I'll send the seedlings. You do the planting.
No problem. So how can Nigeria leverage regional trade agreements like the African Continental Free Trade Area to expand agricultural exports?
Well, for you to be able to play in that circle, you need to do what they call volume that gives you value. Okay, the only way you can be able to play as a player is to be able to do aggregation, and this is even where what I'm talking about now makes more sense. This is the Chinese model. Get clusters of cooperatives to produce everything, make certain that they meet the standards that are required, and then you now aggregate them into one bulk, and then you have this huge, commodity you can be able to trade, because international trade is all about, one, volume, two, standards. 3, the sustainability of your contract. I mean, if you're giving a 5-year contract, a 3-year contract, against that contract that you're giving, the person who's giving it to you is now planning his production. So he needs to make certain that you don't break his production cycle because you're not able to, meet the supplies that you have been allocated to do. So what is important is that we must be able to build the volumes, okay? And then in trying to do so, this is where you need to start, building these circles, these relationships. You need to now start building, intermodal relationships, okay? That you're no longer talking about states now. You're talking about, you're no longer talking about boundaries. You're talking about land stretch. Now, imagine where you had a stretch of maybe cocoa plantation, which is what, how it used to be in those days. I mean, the plantations of cocoa stretch practically across, the rainforest zone. Okay, starting from Old Kogi all the way to Calabar et al. Okay, so that is what we need to begin to do. And that was how, when we were big in agriculture, we ran plantations that ran as belts. That's very important. If we don't get to that point where, we're able to now make certain that we are doing a minimum of shiploads, okay, as the cutoff point, as the minimum demand, it might be tough, for us to play in after. We might just have other people, who will come and produce in Nigeria or add or do what they call valorization, add value, and then they take the markets.
Dr. Emeka Okengwu, thank you so much for talking to us. Of course, I will expect those yam seedlings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.